Good morning, everyone. We are reopening this council meeting this morning. Everyone can just come to order. We are recording. Thanks very much. So yeah, it's 8:30 and we're opening up, resuming our paper 6.1 this morning, as you all know. And I'm just going to quickly begin with the karakia. Tue ki runga, tue ki raro, tue ki waho, tue ki roto, tue ki te here tangata, ka rongo te po, ka rongo te ao, humie, huie, taia ki e. Thank you. We'll just get right into it because we have got a busy day today. We are up to number 15 on our list of recommendations here, and we are straight into the Toko drainage. I think we haven't done that one. No, we have done that. Yeah, I was thinking this sounds familiar. We have done Toko drainage. We're up to 16. Approves amending all drainage schemes to a 10% general rate allocation. As we can remember, we've moved and seconded all these already. And as you're the mover, Kevin, of all of these, in theory, you get to speak first to them all. But first of all, we'll see if there's any questions on this one.
Please remind everyone know that's pro forma that we've removed them so that we can vote against them.
Absolutely. That's
for those on television.
As always, though,
those sadly on
of course, you can always move and then vote against anyway if you'd like to. And the purpose of debate is to keep your mind open, and you may indeed find that's what happens. So anyway, we're on drainage schemes 10%. Anyone wanting? No, I don't think there's any questions here. Doesn't seem like it. Okay, just we'll enter debate then. If anyone would like to say anything. Yep, thank you, Councillor Weir.
Something quickly, because I remember wanting to say this a huge vote before we cut, and it was also, I think it was mostly for the one right before it, but it applies to this one. And sort of everything, actually. I honestly can't remember what prompted me to want to say this, but it was just a reminder that, you know, we are thinking in these like winners and losers out of any decision we make is a zero-sum fallacy, and we need to just be making decisions for the good of the region as a whole, regardless of, you know, whether your area in particular benefits.
That
was just a reminder.
Principles reminder. Yep. Councillor Scott.
I thought it was a reasonable balance between general and targeted. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor McCall, I think, was it?
I don't have my hand up, I can go now.
Oh, okay. No worries.
No, that's fine. I would like to make a couple of comments on this one. Because as you know, I've made them in the past. But basically I've got pretty serious concerns as to the ongoing viability of the current system and the systems that we're proposing. We just go back to a bit of the background. If you go back to your previous long-term plans over the 10-year periods, there's been like increases in costs, particularly in the drainage, of like ranging from 197 to 202%. And these increases are still set to continue. Based on the plan that we've got so far, we're looking at another 13% per annum, 13.5% per annum increasing over time, which is going to end up being back up to 160+% increase in the cost of maintaining this infrastructure over the term of this current plan. There's been the thing that probably gets me over that time, there's been no increase in the level of service over that period. It's only maintaining basically what's there. To me, the system is broken. It can't continue the way it is. Basically, it seems to me the cost of doing business is spiraling out of control. There are people there with modest size farming properties paying like 50, 60, even up to $100,000 rates for drainage rates, and it's just not sustainable. sustainable. There needs to be some changes. These are not large farms. These are just normal sized properties. Some of these farms are sitting at like 4 and 5 meters above sea level. They're basically sitting on hills on the Taieri, but because their farm is where it is, because somebody put a line around their farm, it creates quite a rating burden for them. A lot of these farms are actually have banks around them so that we can manage the banks and use their farms as storage ponds areas in times of high flow. So the farms are providing a service, taking water to protect the rest of the area. By taking that water creates drainage issues, etc. It just seems to be like a circular thing that makes no sense to me, that you can completely separate drainage from flood, let alone have different ratios. I do recognise that there's been some changes that in developing the long-term plan, so the changes around capital allocation, and the only other change, and this is the only one that's probably not had a large change, they've changed from a targeted rate to general rate from 90-8 to 90-10. So basically it's exactly that. There's been no change at all in this one. So we've gone through and analysed everything and come to conclusions of it being different. This one stayed pretty much the same. The problem, what we have done also though, is like the proposal is to spread the burden over a wider area within a smaller area. So it's actually within just the current targeted rating area. So basically the idea is to, okay, we may help some of the larger rating bills by giving everybody else higher rating bills. And as Brian has mentioned in the flood one and in the past, some of these properties are going to be up for like rating increases like of even up to like 1,000%. I'd like to give you an example of a 20 hectare lifestyle block, or just under 20 hectare lifestyle block in East Taieri Drainage D zone. Currently pays drainage rates of 1,713. Okay, our proposal is for those rates to increase 64% to $2,008. If the continuing increase of the cost of our level of service goes as it has been, it's a common number that if you've got cost increases multiplying at 15%, it'll double every 5 years. So in 10 years' time, 2035, that lifestyle block will be paying drainage rates of 11,300 approximately. These people are 9 to 5 workers. They look after their grandmother or mother in their home. They're normal. These are actually everyday people. These are not wealthy people. They do happen to have a property that sits in the zone, in a targeted rating zone. They've lived there for a long time. They have no drains on their property. They pretty much get no more benefit than the person who lives in a house of similar value inside the town boundary. So I think, although there's what we need to be doing, first of all, I would promote that we need to go to at least the same as the flood, which is a 80-20 split. But what we needed to do, and even then, as I spoke at the end of yesterday, once we start with, now we're moving the split from district split to a regional split. Now myself, who lives in Tapanui, is now assisting the rates on the Taieri and in the Leith and in Queenstown area, okay, everywhere. Whereas there's a big area in this zone that is gaining benefits, because you gain benefits just because you live where you are, that are actually paying no more towards the flood and drainage costs on the Taieri than I do living in Tapanui. And those are people who actually live directly opposite the road, 100 metres from the property I just spoke of. Okay, so there's a wrong recognition. There's something wrong in the recognition going here. it took a while, but we did get a copy of the Castali report 2 days ago. I've only had a pretty brief look at it. But and I missed when I was missed the number. And it's basically the Castali report is a report of opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. It's somebody else's opinion who's gone through the same process as we've gone through with the Morrison Lowe report. It talks of about it not being a perfect science. It talks about variances. There is no hard detail in the Castali report. There is no numbers to back up their rating zones. There is in the Castali report, it does say an integrated local economy, the ratio should be around 19 to 81, which is 80-20. Okay, that's at the upper end of the range, take it. But the economy is, if that economy is not becoming integrated and more integrated over time, I'll eat my hat. We actually you have to appreciate that it's just not working, it's not happening. It's very much opinion. And then there's no talks in the Castali report that I could see, and I may be wrong, there's no talk of varying internal targeted rating zones. They talk of the rating zone and 80-20 overall, but then I'm not too sure, because it's never been said, who drew the lines on the map. Because within that rating zone there's 9 or 10, and the flood zone, there's heaps of rating zones within that zone. Who drew the lines? Who decided? Okay, so an interesting side, I go back to my 19 or 18 hectare block or whatever it is, and some people did come to look at the drains. Didn't believe them that there was no drains on that property. So basically, as Elliot said, wherever there's a winner, there's going to be a loser. And I think at the end of the day, what we're doing here today is actually setting a program to go to consultation for the public. We need to have that consultation. I'd like the consultation to go out based on an 80-20, because then you're actually not doing any consultation on this one, because you've still got the same ratios as prior pretty much. Okay, so that's what I'd like to do. We need to actually then look further, because what's happening now is unsustainable. The guy who has $63,000 in rates is going to end up paying like $200,000 in 10 years' time. Makes sense? Not to me. So it's not sustainable. So we actually have to recognise that, and we actually have to start thinking about doing things differently. And we have to start doing things differently by involving the people who are paying the money to protect their properties. So we actually need to be talking to the people in the development of any work programs prior to doing the work program, just like we do everywhere else, rather than being given the work program with basically having no say to it. That's pretty much me done. Thanks, done for the day. So that's my thoughts. I think we just got to recognise that there's a big issue here. This ain't going to fix it. We need to use this as a step to a new way of looking at things.
Just for the point of order there. I just want to make it clear that's not what I was saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Brian, you've actually already spoken.
I just want to point to clarification that were raised
Okay.
directly to, so look, just so we get all this right, I don't disagree with Lloyd's point of sustainability, but Lloyd pointed it out that there was ratepayers there paying $55,000. The average drainage rate for East Tyree and West Tyree is in the order of $8,000. So my question to Nick is that, you know, when we say stuff like that, I assume we're talking about a multitude of properties, or is it right at one end? That must be at one end of the spectrum if the average property is 8,000. If I misunderstood the situation.
So the numbers on the modelling show the average in each zone.
Yeah.
I think the number that got mentioned was that there was ratepayers paying $100,000 for drainage. By property, that's not the case. The maximum drainage rate, there is one property in East. well, this is just drainage we're talking
Yes.
about here. So in ED1, there is a property that pays 45. The next highest below that is West Tyree WD1 that is 27.
Okay,
And there's
those-
probably about 10 properties that are in that $20,000 range. Now, a farmer might be paying 100,000 because they might own 5 of those separate properties.
Yeah.
But on a property basis, there is one at 45, and I would say sort of 10 that are in the 20,000 just for their drainage rate.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
that's fine. The second clarification was, Lloyd said that rates gone up 1,000%, and that I had said that, and I certainly did say that. Thank you. But my understanding is that's been addressed by the WF 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 being taken out, because that's where the big increases were.
So that's a later question, is the zone,
But
the zone
1,000%,
allocation,
because
but yeah, that bit of what was that initial modelling showed that some of those would go up by that, but that's been addressed.
So in relation to that point, in relation to the point that we're simply going out with the same for consultation, in fact, we're going out with a number of changes, one of them being that we're trying to amalgamate the number of zones to 1 or 2,
Yeah,
so
reduce the number of zones.
there is a change.
Potentially, that's a
Yeah,
question
there's
for
a
debate later on.
Down the
Yeah.
track, we
So I
can
understand
find all
that.
those details.
What I'm trying to say is that we're having a lot of debate on this particular, I was just trying to get the facts.
Yes, that's good.
The Castalia report was suggested as being opinion. My understanding is it's actually expert opinion, which is different than just opinion.
I
Is
could
that correct?
clarify that. The Castalia report was a review to look at the general rate allocation only. So it was not, the reason why there's no review in there around the allocation within the targeted rate,
Yeah.
because that wasn't part of their brief.
Yes,
That allocation of the actual targeted rate area and the allocation within that is the review that was done in, I think, was it 2011? That followed a request in the 2009 LTP. That review was done with all the technical analysis of where the zone was and the allocation within there. Following that, there was a request from the community for several years to have that the general rate allocation wasn't right, and council decided in the 2015 LTP to do a review of the general rate, targeted rate allocation, and it was done for the Tyree and Clutha schemes at that point.
Yeah.
But it was nothing more than general rate allocation.
no, I got it. And that final point was, I accept Lloyd's point, in terms of the unsustainability.
It's not a point
question.
of clarification.
Thank
We're
you,
not
Madam Chair.
debating Louise. Thank you, though. Thanks for clarifying all those points, though, Nick. That's really important for the public record as well. Councillor McCall, is it a point of clarification?
There's a point of clarification, and I'll probably throw a couple of sideways in.
Well, yeah.
The properties may be $27,000. You have 4
Yeah.
sections in a row who make up this farm.
No,
Yeah.
sorry, we can't have cross
We also have
debate.
to remember that water runs downhill. And if you
Yeah,
put an obstruction
okay.
in the roads,
Thank you, you've spoken. The understanding orders is an ability to ask the staff questions once we've entered debate, but there isn't an ability to do cross debating with other councillors. And yeah, sorry, I know that's probably frustrating, but that's that. Right, so I've got a list. We've got councillor.
Sorry.
Sorry,
different
yeah,
point of
sorry, okay,
clarification.
sorry.
Sorry,
Councillor Malcolm.
Councillor McCall said he had a ratepayer currently paying $1,713 and was to have a 64% increase, and then quoted a figure of $2,008. Was Councillor McCall actually meaning to say it was going from $1,713 to $2,809?
That's correct, councillor
Okay.
Lovell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good one. We're up to councillor Noon, then Wilson, and anyone else quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This process, LTP review process, occurs every 3 years, and we've got an opportunity to have the helicopter view of rating mechanisms and how we collect a big chunk of the revenue that makes this organisation tick. With regards to approving the drainage rates at 10% general rate, it's an acknowledgement of that wider benefit consideration, which we've workshopped and understood that, you know, there's value and there's value in it because we recognise there are wider benefits. But I think fundamentally we're looking for a workable, fair, sustainable and simplistic solution. And I think although this may not be perfect, and actually Lloyd has highlighted it's not perfect, but I can give examples over the years, and the late Morris Prendergast often used to talk about Lamb Hill Station that was paying $10,000 in DCC rates, and the portion for the library was $2,000, and they never used the library. So rates are a blunt instrument, and as I say, this may not be perfect, but it's an attempt to try and get a simplistic, workable, fair, sustainable solution. So if we get inundated with opposition with the 10% split on the general rate, we'll certainly reconsider it. But at this point, I think we need to go out to the community, because this is a slightly different steer than where we've been in the past, and go out to the community with an open mind, get some feedback, and then make a decision further down the track as we have that opportunity.
Thank you, councillor Noon. Councillor Wilson.
Mine's similar, and I hope that we don't keep on going this slowly through this stuff.
No,
Time
yeah,
straight.
we need to.
We need to be lifting this up and looking at a matter of principle. This is not looking at striking rates at the moment. This is about, as the previous resolution was, to the revenue and funding policy and putting it out for consultation. And what the end numbers are is in different debate, and what the actual costs are is certainly something that we can be doing, but it's not appropriately to be done here. So if we're worried about OPEX and capital, and we should be, absolutely should be, and natural-based solutions, and perhaps having liaison committees, God forbid, we haven't been talking about those yet either. But we can do that. Doing that in the revenue and funding policy is certainly not the right time.
Councillor Kelleher.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be brief. This is actually a very big change, because what you have had under the numbers here, the bulk of the activity was targeted to the actual owner. They then caught another bit under the district rate, and then they caught, and the rest of Otago caught the rest in relatively small numbers. So moving out that district rate means that the wider total encumbrance of Otago is now supporting this activity. And look, let's consult on it and see where we get to. I think what it does highlight is that us managing these schemes is expensive, and it's going to continue to be expensive. And the actual overlying question to ask is it too expensive? Are these people getting value for money or not? Is there a cheaper mechanism under maybe contracting this work out to others? Is there other ways that they could potentially ask for that gets more cost-effective management of this activity? Yes. Thank you.
Very good. I think everyone's had a good chance there. So got them over in the seconder. I think it's time to put it. So everyone understands what they're voting on. I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against.
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, 17's gone.
Yeah, right. 17 approves all flood and drainage general rate allocations to general rate.
As the mover of that, I would like to talk.
Okay. Off you go.
And I just reflect back on the LTP process that we've been through, and if you recall that we put things into columns, whether they be low, medium, high, and that's regarding where the target and the benefits were. So this is part of the process of that overall big picture helicopter look at to where the allocations of these rates sit. So again, this is part of that movement and should be out for consultation, and we will get some feedback from there. And remembering that when we do get it back, we have still got room to move within those parameters of the low, medium and high, and then adjust outliers, and we could completely change where we're from. But I think this is the start of using this low, medium, high scenarios to really start having a basic principle for all our rating schemes. So comfortable to move with that direction.
Well said. Not sure if we need too much more debate than that. That sounds pretty good. Okay, I'm going to put this one. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. 18, approves reducing the number of flood and drainage benefit zones to 1 or 2 zones per scheme. And we've had some discussion in earlier resolutions there. Anyone wish to say, or actually ask a question even, first of all? No questions, any debate? Councillor Malcolm?
Yeah, look, I just want to reiterate what we've heard around the table from some councillors now, that this, again, we're prioritising as per our big picture scenario, but in reality, this is just shifting the pain around. These schemes are exceptionally expensive to run, and I think the underlying problem that we will come back after consultation is there a better way to do it? Because simply, and I'm not saying ORC is doing it wrong, but with ORC doing it, there is a margin of overheads that appear to be exceptionally high. They certainly will be justified, I'm sure, but in reality, that's getting things out of kilter. So what we're doing here is just simply pushing those figures around to a different group of ratepayers, and I think we'll get the reaction that hopefully will focus us on the costs of the schemes going forward. So happy to move in that direction.
All right. Anyone else then? Councillor Scott?
Yeah, Cole, actually, I was just looking at this table, Nick, on page 15 of 138. Have I got the right table? Tyree 2, it says 2 zones, but then it says 80% / general 20%. Is that the appropriate table to look at?
You're on page 15.
Yeah. My bad.
Yep, so that's that shows the lower Tyree examples. So there was 2, it was done, there's 2 examples. One assumes that all of those various zones would all be rated the same, although I've still divided it in the table. It's that first table, the Tyree 1, is on the assumption that they're all zones are paying the same. And what that actually does is the reason there I've got, if you like, the 17 and 83, it actually switches the allocation completely, sort of flips it round the other way to currently it's sort of almost 90% is paid by the west area, or 88.8, and the rest is paid by the east area. If you did it just as one zone, it would flip basically the other way, where it would be 1783 would go to the east area. So then the next one down, which is the one that's proposed, is to go to.
I'm just confused. 2 zones. 20%. Is that correct?
Yep. So that's the bottom one.
Yeah.
The bottom one, Tyree 2, then apportions only gives 80% to the targeted rate zone, which is as you've just agreed in a couple of points back.
Yeah.
Yep. Whereas the one up above would have 83%. Yeah. So it's on the same, it was on that previous basis.
Yeah.
So the Tyree 2 changes the current, what was the current 83 to 80. Yeah. And then of the 80%, it's then allocated across 2 zones. So there's still a west zone and an east zone.
Yeah.
The west zone is still getting 88.8% of the total, and the east is still getting the other 11%. But within that east and west, like those west ones are all treated the same. So there's only the 2. So both of them get rated on the same basis, and the same in the east where there's however many, a dozen, they're all paying the same rate in the dollar.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the WF1, which was the extreme
Rightio.
situation that was communicated, has gone down 25%. So it's not a complete solution, but it's an assistance.
Yeah, okay, we're just points of clarification for
Yep.
debate. We're not having another questioning session or, yeah, we're in debate. Rightio. We just need to keep moving or because we've got a lot on. Sorry, Brian, for, yeah.
Well, it is important too, Madam Chair.
Well, it is really important, but yeah, we've just got to resemble some order here in the debate too. Thanks. Right, so any debate then? No, okay. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, well, I think, that's a reasonable situation as outlined on that bottom table. Thank you very much. Madam
Yep,
Chair.
cool. Okay, thank you. No other debate then. We're going to put this one all in favour. Aye,
Aye.
against, carried. Thank you. Number 19 approves that two-zone apportionment will be based on current allocation percentage and remove all those WFs from the calculation for lower Tyree flood. Any questions? Yep, Councillor Wilson.
I'm really happy for this and understand it. The question I've got is, when we do the consultation, will that be zeroed out in these as opposed to taken out? Because if we don't put zero beside it, if they just omit it because they're zero, then people don't realise that there's consultation on that and it could be added in later. Does that make sense?
Yep, yeah. Yeah.
We'll do it so that people can see that that's happened.
But they've now been moved to zero as opposed to just.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they'll all support that, but the fact is that some people may want to submit that we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yep.
No other questions? Okay, any debate? None. Okay then. I'll put it all in favour. Aye, against, carried. Approves amending the Leith indirect zone to be all of Dunedin district. Questions? Councillor Scott.
What's the difference between the Dunedin indirect zone and the as proposed here? Is it significant?
I'll just go down and have a look at.
You're talking the area or the number of ratepayers?
Both.
So currently, the Leith area has just over 42,060 rate units, of which
Indirect.
no, and 40,742 of those are indirect.
Yeah.
So under this, the indirect would then capture the remaining, because you go to 55,000, so it's the remaining, 13,600.
Those 13,000.
Hinterland.
Hi,
Part
Middleman.
of the, part of the new immigration process.
Mosgiel as well.
Mosgiel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So currently the zone is
Thank you.
sort of probably from the top of the hill, goes round, it covers all of the peninsula, goes up a bit, but basically everything inland and further south is excluded.
Thank you.
It's one of those simplification ones again, which we'll probably get some feedback on. Councillor Mepham, questions? Or
Nick, just a further explanation around the stadium differential. Could you just explain that again for us, please?
So currently, the way that it's set is the stadium is in the direct zone. So there's a cap or there's an allocation that says that the stadium, based on it being the stadium, will pay 2%, is it 4% of the direct apportionment? I think it's 4% of the direct, so it's 2% of the total targeted. Yeah. So under this, I'll be proposing that would disappear. So they currently pay about 33,000, yeah, under the one that that moves it there, it would go to goes to just over 100,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No, oh, sorry,
Sorry,
yeah.
I imagine Dunedin City or Dunedin City Holdings Limited will be submitting on that. But what would the effect be if it stayed on those other numbers that you've supplied?
Oh, I haven't worked that one out.
Yeah,
it's probably
But the other thing is, you know, some of the other things that I've got might work the other way. So this will be one when we come back. In fact, this will, because this is one of the big capital value properties, we'll look at specifically what happens with this one. But although this one's going up, there might be other rates that are dropping that in fact they end up with a net that's not that dissimilar to where they're currently at, but they're paying a different mix.
I think Councillor Ware started with a really good point too on principles and simplification and transparency, etc. So yeah, good question though. Any debate? Nope. Okay then. We'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against. Carried. Approves amending Lower Waitaki River Control to be 100% funded by River and Waterway Management Waitaki. Questions, Councillor
The effect of
Wilson?
this one would be the control area at present is those owners adjoining the river. Is that correct? And this would widen out to the whole of the Waitaki.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's quite a substantial change, yeah, but it makes sense, yeah.
Yep, Councillor
Yeah, look,
Melvin.
I'm actually really comfortable to put this out to consultation. There is a far wider benefit. This is now the Meridian Dam flood channel as opposed to a river. And I'll continue to argue that if they want to come and have an argument with me. But in reality, town water is supplied from it. The downlands irrigation is all supplied from it. There's recreation advantages. And of course, by keeping it graded, the contours right, keeping it free of weeds and keeping it the lifeline, which is the main highways, are also kept intact. So there's a huge advantage for the whole district, and probably on the basis of everything else being spread, it should be spread right across Otago, but we'll leave that for another debate. So it does just reinforce the principles that we're working on. So happy for that to go to debate.
Thank you. No one else wants to debate by the looks of it. We'll put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 22, approves amending transport target rate areas to be all of Dunedin and Queenstown districts, with Dunedin including the existing map Palmerston area options. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. Palmerston area. Good one. Okay. Any questions on this one? No questions. Sorry, is it a question, Brian?
Yeah, it is a
Yep,
question,
cool.
like, you know, if we're doing the $2 fare, it's everywhere, and we don't really get into the target. But if we went and changed that philosophy, to charge people in the outer areas more, because they're travelling more, we'd have to go back to the targeted rate scenario. Yeah? Yeah? That's a question.
No, I don't think that I don't think the fare structure necessarily impacts
On the targeted rate.
what area you do the targeted rate over.
Okay, no, good, thank you.
Any others?
Well,
Councillor
just-
Mepham?
Yeah, just an example of the impact on one ratepayer. I'm just looking at the table, I'm just trying to understand it.
Which page are you on?
Transport Dunedin, page 24. Two tables here, you've got base and option A. You got it?
Yep.
The average rate stays the same, 187.62 under base and option A.
So the average option under both of those, the option A's, and whether it's 1A or 2A, the average drops for, yeah, the average drops because under the A scenario, that new portion of ratepayers is coming in, which is the Dunedin area that's currently not paying any targeted transport rates. So
you've
so
got
under the
additional
option
rate
A,
units. You've
yeah.
got additional rate units there,
yeah, so the average
got-
drops. Yep.
but it hasn't dropped.
Under which one are you looking at?
The second table, option A. You've got 961.
Oh,
for it.
option A, that, yeah, that's just the calculations that, yeah, I'm the boxes, so the ones that are orange and then the one down the bottom that is blue where it's got PT Dunedin 1 and PT Dunedin 1A, yeah.
Mhm.
That's the ones that they're the actual calculations. The one up above is just adding the rates units so that I know how much the total rates units are.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually changed any of the rates dollars in that second table. It's, yep,
Okay, so that was just a bit confusing then.
Yeah. I just needed
So-
that
so
so that I've
going-
got the additional number of rates units and the additional CV to use for the
So
calculations down below.
what's the average rate that we're agreeing to?
So the one that is being proposed. So we're on to,
22, yeah.
Yeah, 22.
yeah, so we're doing the area first. So basically this is the first scenario, which is the orange one, because the one of doing a general rate allocation comes second. So I'm saying regardless of whether you did the general rate allocation, still would like the targeted rate zone to, rather being the defined map, to be the whole district. So that's effectively, this one here is effectively on page 24, is not the first two boxes, it's the next two boxes. Yeah. So it is, what it is the it's PT Dunedin 1A. Yep. So if we increased the targeted rate zone to bring in those properties in Dunedin that aren't there, then the average would drop to 170.35 from the current 187.62.
Well, okay, you can see where I got confused on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because we've got multiple steps to this. You know, ultimately I'm proposing that plus the general rate allocation plus the uniform, but we're doing it in distinct
Yes.
pieces in these resolutions.
Bits
So-
to the puzzle,
So
wasn't
we've got a
there?
$17 rate decrease across the whole rating units.
Yeah, on average.
Yeah.
Yeah, if those properties were brought in.
Sure.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Wilson, then Forbes.
So just explain, I'm reading that 16% of Dunedin's capital value is currently not rated for buses, and that is going to now be included under this model at $293 average. Is that correct?
Yep,
And that's done because it's on capital value, not on
uniform.
uniform.
Yep.
Was it uniform before?
No,
No.
uniforms are
Yeah.
a later step that I'm proposing. One of the reasons is because you're looking at capital value versus that, and uniform is going to, then those properties under a uniform basis would pay the 105 as opposed to an average of 293.
So I'm just having difficulty pulling these two apart because this is fine. If it's not great
Yeah,
if,
it's a bit.
if it's on capital value like this, and so
So if you approve it now and it stays on capital value, you'd go, I know what you're saying is you go, you probably, yeah, potentially it's a bit of a, if yes, you might be happy with this if it was on that basis, but then no, you're not if it stays on that. So
Yeah.
it's a matter of which way you do the various bits of it,
I would rather be doing 22, 23 and 24 together.
or you do them all together.
Yeah,
Yep,
do
I
them all
suppose
together.
that's,
I'm sorry, they don't work as bits in this.
Yeah.
Because that would be a really perverse. While I have championed that there are benefits in PT for much broader, at that sort of prices, that would be, I mean, that's why you're not actually suggesting it, but done, yeah,
Possibly all together. on
Yeah,
them.
I'm sorry, I
Up to
haven't,
25.
it's hard to get,
perhaps.
yeah, I think they possibly all need to be, they are a box set,
Mm.
they can't be done individually.
But do you start,
24.
you start at 24?
I think
So,
you could
yeah, we
either,
can do them
you,
individually.
you could either do them
Yeah.
all sort of collectively, because the collective is that it would be charged, that you would allocate 40% to general rate, and then targeted rate is uniform on a district wide basis. That's sort of the collective. Probably the general rate one, maybe you could do separately, but I think probably moving to the district and then whether it's CV or uniform are probably want to be done as a package. Or
Yeah.
you could take all three, like I just said. If you did just want to go combine those three and say, here's a resolution that combines all three, you could put that up. And then if that went through, you wouldn't have to do the three individually.
Chair.
Yeah.
22 and
Councillor
24, I think are the grouping. that need to be done.
22, sorry.
22 and 24. Because I think 23 has a different connotation over a whole region.
Well, if you're happy then I guess it's up to me, but consider it, we'll just take a moment to read those and make sure everyone's thinking about what that means, packaging them.
I don't know why you were packaging.
Yep, okay. Councillor Forbes, you had your hand up before for a question. Are you okay now?
Yes, thanks. Kate's asked mine, and yeah, so I'll enter later in the debate,
Okay.
possibly.
So just for, in terms of procedure here, Kevin, you are suggesting that 22 has currently been put pro forma, changes to approves amending transport targeted rate areas to be all of Dunedin and Queenstown districts, and approves amending transport targeted rate to be charged on a uniform basis as a single.
No, it's just taking the two different resolutions but voting on them at once, isn't it? You can do that as well. It doesn't have to be one resolution. It's like
Okay, so you
sometimes
take it,
we vote, we're taking the two resolutions together as one vote. That would be what I thought we were doing.
So what is the advantage in doing that?
It's to debate them both together and then you have it as a package, because otherwise you could have a perverse outcome of yes and then no. You can have one vote now.
The way to look at it is the first one is saying move it to a district basis.
Yeah.
So that would be district on the current basis, which is capital value.
Yeah.
So then if people went, well, they like the district, but then they're hoping that they want it actually done on a uniform basis, not capital. Then if the uniform one doesn't go through and it stays capital, they've actually potentially locked into a basis that they didn't want. Probably the district and the basis of uniform or capital are probably connected in people's thinking as to whether they vote for it or not. Maybe not, but that was certainly what Kate was indicating, and I can understand where she's coming from.
What you were hoping for, Councillor Malcolm?
Yeah.
As the mover, he's got a right to suggest that. Yep, Councillor Scott.
I'd like to discuss them separately. My personal view is I'm keen that, Dunedin District, Queenstown District, but I'm against the uniform basis. So we're you're solving one problem and creating another. I'd like to stick to the agenda as we've agreed.
I'd like to support that if I can too. I don't think it's going to be, there's not going to be a different outcome here.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't really mind because I get a sense that there isn't going to be another outcome, but some people are thinking it's better to put them together because they're a package, and I can totally understand that as well. And those that, I don't see a problem at all with that.
Just thinking,
and that's
too,
what we.
This is to lock in the model that we bring back in February, which will also have the status quo, because we'll have to show what the change is. So you're going to see both of them anyway.
Right.
And you can still vote whichever way you
Yeah.
would like, and if you,
It's just one will be
Yeah.
included in the draft budget. and the
Let's
other
keep
one-
them
if
in
you
order.
win, then you put up an alternative and see what happens from there. Yep.
That's great.
Keep them in
Okay.
order.
So, right, we all understand what we're doing. We're going to take them together. And anyone would like to
No, no,
debate?
no,
Take the, oh, sorry,
We're
did
gonna
you
do it in
want to
order.
take them
Yeah, after
separately?
advice from the CE, I'm comfortable
Okay,
with that.
sorry, I
Yeah,
misread what
sorry.
your
Yeah, yeah.
body language was doing there. Thank
Yeah, no,
you.
that's sorry.
22.
All right, that's
Yeah,
nice and
thanks.
simple. Is there any debate on
It wasn't a
22?
false smile,
being-
it was a real smile.
Thanks, Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah.
Any further debate on 22 then? Great, okay.
No, I do.
Oh, sorry, okay, sorry, Alexa.
Sorry, it's hard to get the hand up. I'm a bit worried about Wanaka. And I don't really want to pull it out. I actually think that probably doing it this way is the best way. I think it's the way that people are going to accept it best, even though I don't actually like uniform rates very much, but I think this might go down correctly. But I am worried about Wanaka being in there, and I'm okay with leaving it there, but I am expecting some pretty big pushback. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts on that.
No, it isn't.
That's what
Okay,
I'm
it's a
just-
debate, so, yeah. Anybody wish to debate? No. Yeah, Councillor Wilson.
This one by itself doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to abstain from it, because without putting it with 24, I can't see how it can work. And with all due respect to the advice, I hope 24 passes, in which case I will really support this and advocate for that there is a contribution to come from a much broader range of Dunedin. But we're not doing that. It's a process that is now tripping me up.
Councillor Scott.
I'm happy
Hello.
that Dunedin and Queenstown districts is the recommendation and on the basis of capital value.
Thank you, Councillor Callagher, then McCall.
Yeah, I'm not happy that Wanaka's included. I think it's unfair to that area until we actually get a service available in that area. So
Councillor McCall.
Oh, sorry, I was just wondering if you put 24 first before talking. Can you not do that? Right.
Councillor Laws, welcome.
Thank you. I agree. If you're not providing a service to Wanaka ratepayers, why are you rating them for a public transport service that they're not provided? The only people who benefit are those who are living in the Queenstown, Alexandra area.
Okay, anyone else? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Noon.
I think it's important to go back and think about this Otago Regional Council is in the process of transitioning the public transport service to a wider area over time. And I know we only talked about that earlier on when we started this process about the various trials in and around connecting Oamaru with Dunedin, Clutha with Dunedin, Alexandra, Cromwell, Wanaka, Queenstown, etc. But I also think that enhancing the existing services in both Queenstown and Dunedin allows people who live on the periphery of those areas to carpool to a destination to catch a bus, like Park and Ride. That's becoming sort of quite a normal day-to-day occurrence for a lot of urbanites in other cities. Auckland, it works well up there. So to suggest that the people outside the area aren't benefiting, I don't believe is right, because there are opportunities to tap into the existing service.
Thank you.
No, there aren't.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. Rightio. Thank you, Councillor Noon. I think that sums up the debate. I'm going to put that now. All in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
I think I heard 3 there. Would you like them recorded?
Sure. Thank you.
Callagher, Laws, and Scott, would you like yours recorded?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks. It's passed.
You abstained.
I'm just, yeah, just
Oh, okay.
And I'm the same.
We don't need it noted, thanks. 23 approves introducing a new general rate, regional allocation of 40% of the total rate requirement, Dunedin and Queenstown.
Just,
Oh, sorry, have we just, no, that would read very similar.
yeah, can we
Yeah.
just have clarification how this works, please, so that people who may be watching understand what that means? Because with the Dunedin and Queenstown.
Oh,
areas-
so a question
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just explain that in a little bit more detail. Yep, is that okay,
Yep.
Nick?
So currently, both PT networks are 100% targeted rate. So for the, so this is just proposing in same way that we've done with flood and drainage, is to bring in a general rate allocation. Yep, for the targeted rate portion. And I've set that at 40%, based on when we did the work with councillors. This, the targeted, or the targeted assessment of this, rather than being high like for the other ones, it was in that medium, which is in the 60 to 80, so landed down the bottom of that. And then, although because the funding structure for transport is different, this is only looking at their rates allocation and doing the 60-40 on that, because there's fares that come into the equation and Waka Kotahi subsidies. It works out that the general rate portion would be approximately 16% of the total cost. So, because I was looking going, where does 40% sit with flood and drainage? But then when you look at it from the point of view that there's the other funding mechanisms in there, 16%, I thought, yeah, I could probably go with the argument of, should it actually be higher than flood? But then you would be into the realms of having general rate being allocated more than targeted rate. So.
No, thank you.
Question, yep.
So when you've got Dunedin and Queenstown in brackets, which I think are not part of the motion, it doesn't mean that it's the Dunedin and Queenstown proportion. It's being rated right across all of Otago.
Yeah. Dunedin Queenstown targeted rates.
Right across Otago.
Yes.
Otago.
Yeah.
It's just the confusion of having Dunedin and Queenstown in there, which.
Yeah.
I just want to.
I think I meant just for the Dunedin and Queenstown PT networks was what I meant. So I wasn't saying so. So the targeted rate portion, is going to go to both of those districts. Yeah, and then this would leave the general rate portion will be going regional. Yep.
Thank you,
Councillor Scott.
Am I allowed to enter debate?
Oh, I'll just double check if there's any other questions and then certainly. Yep. I don't know. Oh, sorry, Councillor Meetham.
Yeah, so my question is that will this allocation of the rate across the region enable the PT strategy, and that includes the trials and everything at the PT strategy we saw yesterday. So that's
No.
That's
Oh, right, well, ask Nick to answer, but yeah.
Well, those other initiatives initially are being funded out of general rate. But if, for example, things progress to, full services, this would be the model you would use for full services, which would have a targeted to that district with a general rate allocation. Yeah, going across the whole region. So, and the part of the rationale then for not just this, but also the uniform is, given that the costs are going to escalate, I think that this mix gives you the ability to pay for that and for it to be sustainable, because you've got a base of targeted rate that would be uniform, and you've still got a 40% allocation going regional to all of the region on a CV basis. So it sort of gives you a mix that I think, although this is just talking about the two PT, funding the two PT services currently, if other PT networks got developed, like, for example, Oamaru, if it goes beyond the Yeah.
So just to remember the option that was approved for consultation, the Oamaru and the Wanaka trials were targeted rates for those areas.
So
So they would fall, Wanaka would obviously be picked up by the Queenstown targeted, and Oamaru would be a new one based on the same model.
Okay, so I'm just wondering where the benefit is to the region on this. I'm not sure how we got this far, actually.
Thanks. Have you got-
So that was the funding needs analysis that we did and talked to councillors. There was all the, and that's where we settled on the targeted benefit being in that medium, because there was a wider, if you like, region and community benefits that were around the social, the environmental, all of those benefits, not just of having the, if you like, the direct user, the people who travel into those regions. So people travelling into Queenstown who live from outside benefit from other people using the bus service, even if they don't use it themselves. Congestion, all of those things were discussed in the funding needs analysis, which is where we landed on the medium targeted rate assessment for transport.
Thank you. Councillor McCall, Scott.
Can you give us an idea of what the cost per rating unit, the general rate would be?
Okay, so general rate, transport.
The average house in Balcliffe will pay $15.
So what we've got is, so Dunedin, if we were, so Dunedin in those boxes that are down the bottom, so the PT Dunedin 2 and PT Dunedin 2A, so the general rate allocation becomes that 40%, which is 3.8 million. So on average, it's $30.94.
In Dunedin.
No, $30.94 on average across 124,000 properties that get general rated.
The whole region.
A whole region, yep.
Done. Yep. Councillor Scott.
Look, I changed my thinking on that last one and voted against the Dunedin Queenstown districts on the basis that why should we be charging Wanaka when we're not providing an adequate service? And it's the same here. I think, a situation like Balcliffe, for goodness sake, I think they're suggesting you're paying something like $30, but my understanding the capital value in Balcliffe was half the average capital value, so maybe 15, something like that. But why the heck? They haven't got any type of public system. They're struggling to get a taxi system, and we're charging them for a PT system that's in Dunedin that we academically think there's sort of some benefit for. They're going to see, this community is going to say, this is all a bit rich. When we actually provide something there for them, let's charge them for it. Let's be fair about it. We've overridden simplicity on fairness. There's no way I'll vote for this. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
So my view is it should be a general rate on a district allocation at a different percentage that is deemed to be fair. Option C.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilson, then Kelleher.
I'd just like to refer and remind us that we're going to be lifting ourselves up, not looking at individuals at the moment, but looking at from a higher level, and refer to our strategic directions, which talks about connected communities. Anyone who has a better roading network anywhere in Otago benefits when transport, freight and everything moves smoothly. And that is part of the PT hope, is to reduce congestion. Doesn't matter if you're in Whanganui or Palmerston or even Middlemarch. The people that go to town to get to services, whether they be medical or shopping or schooling, benefit from a system working well. And this is just one part of that system. Freight is exceedingly important. That needs to roll, and any rural person is involved in freight networks, whether it's this stock or coming in or going out. We need to have these working well. That is part of the PT and connected communities. So I think it's really odd. And what I'm actually really excited about is adding a line item to every rates bill that will give people an idea of where they are and that they are contributing to that, and then that may get them to think about using it when they do go to an area where, because they already pay something, a contribution to it, when they go to an area using it. It puts it on their radar. So I've got no problems with it. I think we need to do this at a higher level than we're getting down to dealing with individuals at the moment. Consultation may well prove that it isn't the right and it doesn't seem fit or fair or affordable. That's a different issue. Let's get these principles right first.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. I got Kelleher, Forbes, Malcolm and Mepham.
Thank you. Definitely can't support, especially if it is going to end up on a capital value. 40% is far too much. I get that Mother Russia should look after a portion, but not that much. To me, that is just too high. Across all of Otago, we do have the benefit of needing public transport in certain areas, but the benefit sits in those certain areas. The predominant issue it's trying to sort in those areas is down to population that live in those areas, so they need it. The wider Otago should help, but not 40%. That's far too much.
Thank you. Councillor Forbes.
I'd just like to completely support Kate's words. I won't repeat them, but just take that as support of those. There are very, very good reasons to get started on public transport across the district, and this is a good way of doing it.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm.
There's not one indication here that this will, and any of the documents on transport that we've had over the last 2 days gives any indication at all that there is an interconnection between services from the outlying areas to Dunedin. This is purely Dunedin and Queenstown focused. There is not one solution being offered to me that will improve, apart from supposed congestion in Dunedin. So I will bring my car from Oamaru because there is no service, and I will come into Dunedin. And if the DCC does its job and lifts the parking fares, I will then have to pay exorbitant parking fares. I'll walk around, do my shopping, and I'll go home. So not only will I be paying exorbitant parking fares, I'll be then paying a rate for a Dunedin transport system. The Oamaru trials are completely targeted rates within the Oamaru area, and I see no problem with that whatsoever. I think we're absolutely dreaming. I think the concept is, again, the big picture. The concept is right. The rationale behind it, interconnectivity, is completely flawed because none that I see offers any of that, and it's just the 40% rate. It's it's probably 39.5% too high, really. Where is the benefit for North Otago? There's none. I mean, we pay our we pay our river management rate now and get no river management work. So I suppose this is exactly the same. We'll pay this extended bus fare and we'll still get no bus service. So yeah, no, I just think the proportions are wrong. The concept proportions are wrong. Start giving some services and some consideration to interconnected services, then you could probably start pushing it out. But at this stage,
just a
not heavy.
Point of clarification then on whether the zero interconnected services, if we were doing trials to larger centres from other areas, surely there would be some way of getting into the Dunedin or Queenstown bus networks through those more regional trials we're doing. Would that be right? Sorry, Nick, is it point of clarification on that?
Hold on. So I'm just referring to yesterday's paper. There will definitely be some regional connections proposed through those trials as we work through them with the TLAs. So potentially getting from Oamaru to Palmerston and then attaching to an existing service, or getting from Balclutha up to Dunedin via the airport, are the sorts of services that have been talked about, but obviously to be defined through that engagement with TLAs and confirming
on a
what those
different
trials will
rating
be.
basis.
Yep, okay, cool, thank you. Right, Councillor Mepham, you've been waiting.
Yeah, look, the question I asked before has informed my decision. If this is not funding the PT strategy, then I don't think it's fair that the rest of Otago has to pay for Dunedin and Queenstown bus users. There's no cost and benefit for them. And I just don't see this as a fair recommendation. I won't be supporting it.
Okay, councillor Noon.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Within the last 24 hours, we noted our strategic direction document. And in the transport section, it says Otago, our aspiration is Otago has an integrated transport system that contributes to the accessibility and connectivity of our communities, reduces congestion and supports community wellbeing aspirations. Our role, planning for the extension of our public transport services, funding and delivering public transport services, designing and delivering initiatives that contribute to accessibility and connectivity within communities. And I said it just the previous motion. And I used the example of people living in Outram, driving to Mosgiel and getting the bus to town. I mean, there are opportunities there now. You know, to suggest that the people outside the current targeted rating area for both Queenstown and Dunedin, to suggest that it's only those people that use the bus that benefit. There are opportunities if people want to take up those opportunities here and now.
Thank you.
On the clarification,
Yep.
through you, Chair, to Mr. Donnelly, is transport planning not 100% general rated?
Yeah, it is.
It is already.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor McCall, did you have your
Oh,
hand
yeah,
up?
no, I'm happy to have a say. I pretty much like to concur with Councillor Malcolm and Councillor Kelleher. It's a bit of a, too often we're sitting here we're asking the whole of Otago, the regional, the rural areas to support town initiatives. I think there is some benefit comes, but not to that sort of, not the sort of level we're talking here. It seems to be too much a one-way traffic. My take on it is if I had a bus, well, going to Councillor Malcolm, I just if I was in Oamaru and had those options, I'd just buy my groceries in Oamaru, to be fair. So I buy all my stuff in Tapanui. But if we had a bus, the idea of me coming to a bus is going to give Dunedin the greater benefit than me, because it's actually the cars in Dunedin that are causing the issues with the air quality, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's probably, you could look at it from both sides, but you know, I won't support it at the 40%. I do believe there is an element where the region should be paying, but I think just like in the other ones, I think there's a closer district area. There's circles of benefit, you could say.
Thank you. Councillor Laws.
Yeah, frankly, it's an absurdity to argue that rural people gain from urban public transport. It's just a nonsensical view, and there's no evidence, empirical or otherwise, that would ever back such a viewpoint. The rural ratepayers of Otago already pay a disproportionate amount of the total rates that the Otago Regional Council pays, primarily because they are large areas with good capital value, and they get very little service despite significant amount of urban impost. I want to go back to this whole idea, though, that you should rate people who live in a particular district or region for a service that is quite specific. In Wanaka, I don't want to just give you some basic geography, is even if you go over the Crown Range an hour away, I'm struggling to see why people would want to drive from Wanaka to get onto a bus in Queenstown, and yet they're going to be paying for that rate. That's absurd, as equally absurd as it would be that someone in Kurau or Omarama is going to be using a bus in Oamaru, or someone in Outram is going to drive into town to try and use the public transport of Dunedin. These are specific services aimed for specific people living in specific districts or urban concentrations. And I concur with the view that it's crazy to rate everybody for that.
Councillor Weir.
I would say that would want our transport, whether or not they currently serve that purpose, would want our transport services to serve all people who want to use them. But I do see the points from Councillor Kelleher and others around the table, and it sounded like there was mostly issue with the amount, that 40%. So if this motion failed, I'd be happy to support an alternative motion that had a slightly lower amount, but I'm personally comfortable with that amount just because of the benefits that this does bring to the region. And if you think about the mode shift that we are aiming to achieve in those cities, that will peter out throughout the districts and also serve, give us a lot of climate change benefits that are, we can't really rate the whole country for that, unfortunately, but there will be climate benefits for the whole country. And then, sorry, lost my train of thought, but I can go with Councillors Wilson and Forbes on the benefits for congestion and air quality and stuff that this will provide. And I also do think that most people will fly when they are travelling to other places in the country, fly via the Dunedin Airport or the Queenstown Airport quickly. Perhaps Christchurch Airport. And so those links through the cities are important as well.
Thank you, Councillor Weir. Councillor Noon, did you want to say something?
Because you won't allow me, but can I just
Clarify.
clarify?
You will speak.
Question, point of clarification.
Yeah.
Could you just remind me the regional allocation of 40% of the total transport rate equates to, is it 16% of the overall operating costs?
3.8 million.
Yes, 16% of the total cost of the network, of both networks. Yes. Okay.
Yep, thanks. Councillor Forbes, have you got a point of clarification because you've already spoken?
No, I haven't. I'll leave
Okay,
it.
thank you. Good one. From my perspective as well, we are doing trials that take people to centres. They don't drop them off at the edge of, well, they probably might, but I don't think that they would drop it unless they wanted to drop them off on the edge of the main centre, bring them into the main centre, and then they would need to use public transport or walk with their feet to get to where they needed to be, like hospital or wherever. The other thing is that we have seen that to avoid a complete standstill in Queenstown, we need to have a 40% mode shift by 2030, I think it was. And that was modelled off the 2020 population statistics, so it's worse than that now. It doesn't serve anyone to have a main centre at a gridlock. So for economies of wider areas, it is actually pretty significant to have them actually capable of being an economy. So there's a number of reasons. A lot of them already been given already. I'm not going to talk any further. Let's have this one. I'm going to put it all in favour. Aye. Against.
No.
Division.
Councillor Forbes,
Yes.
Councillor Kelleher,
No.
Councillor Laws,
No.
Councillor Malcolm,
No.
Councillor McCall,
No.
Councillor Metham,
No.
Councillor Noon,
Aye.
Councillor Scott,
No.
Councillor Weir,
Yes.
Councillor Wilson,
Yes.
Councillor Robertson.
Yes. Lost. Yep. Well, okay, so it's lost.
I'll move 20%, 80%,
20% to 80% alternative.
Regional.
So we have motions on the floor.
This
No, it's not on the fly.
this
She's
is-
allowed to propose
this is
a
B.
alternative. Yeah,
Point of order.
Do we
B.
have?
Point of
We have
order.
options as part of this motion as well.
Yes, so it's B. There's a none.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just-
Yeah. Yep. We'll do that now rather than at the end, because it's, yep, and happy to second that, rightio. Would you like to speak to it?
I would say, this is just a process. Let's just see what the, it's, and it is based. I mean, I could be really disappointed should 24 not pass, and I won't be supporting it going forward. But this is about a process that we've gone through, and let's get to a point that we consult with our communities on. 80-20 is what we've done for flood, so there is some consistency in there. And I mean, as much as I would have justified 70-30, I'm just trying to do some consistency and get a discussion document out there. The staff have worked, and we've all worked really hard on getting something that we can consult with our communities on.
Just a comment, I'm more than happy to take Councillor Laws to parts of the region that he probably hasn't visited for some time, but there are many people that will drive to Palmerston and get the bus to Dunedin as an adult for $2, and I'm more than happy to take Councillor Laws to meet those people and see the proof and the facts for himself.
I don't think anecdotal evidence has ever trumped empirical.
Okay, we're in debate. Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Look, I welcome any, comment from Nick on this particular one, but I mean, I had been favouring the district allocation as opposed to a district allocation of different percent, so that versus the regional allocation at a different percent. Is there any comment from?
Right, we're not having any comments from anyone else. We're in debate. Yep.
Okay, well, I could probably live with the regional allocation of different percent, depending on what that percent is, but I prefer the district allocation. That's my comment in the debate.
2080.
So that's the new one that's being debated at the moment.
Yeah.
And yellow,
Cateson's-
20%.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. Councillor Callaghan.
I won't support at 20%, it's too high. My number would be 5.
Councillor Mefun.
Are we in question?
No, we're in debate.
When we have a question on this?
Oh, okay. I didn't think we would need questions
No,
because
I
we've
just-
already
I just
had an
want-
extensive period of questioning the principles. Yeah.
It's just for clarification.
Okay.
So the status quo, did that form part of our strategy yesterday, for our PT strategy?
So that procurement strategy is not related to this, that was only
Not
on
the procurement.
infrastructure.
I'm not talking about procurement. I'm talking about the public transport strategy, the fares and the funding around the fares. Was that all
On the
based
fares
around
and
what we know?
frequency, so not the
Exactly.
strategy, the fares and frequency business case and the
Yep.
future fares and frequency model in terms of the one we selected to consult on.
So that's a yes. Yesterday, when we were looking at PT, we were looking at the status quo.
That was one of the options, but you didn't select the status quo. You selected to consult on an increased frequency with retaining the $2 fares.
So based on the current rating model.
Yeah, but
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry,
based on the current
yes,
rating.
sorry, yes,
Yep.
yes.
That was my
Okay.
question.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's
Yeah.
fine. So we won't be
Right.
undermining. We won't be undermining any of the strategy by choosing any of these. Okay.
Any further debate? Oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes.
I'd just like to say that I think we seriously risk our principles here, and we've agreed principles, and that is to share some of these costs around the region. And I wonder why we think Queenstown and Wanaka might want to contribute to flood facilities and flood and drainage in the more eastern areas of the region, and not have a contribution to this. Just want us to think about that.
No further, Councillor McCall.
I think it's good that we're coming to a lower amount of general rate. I'm not against having a general rate at some level. I'd probably pitch my general rate at the same as the drainage level, where there's perceived to be minimal, a low benefit to the outer areas, and recognising that once there is public transport available in those areas, well, then you've got a different story. So I'll be more like around 10%. And a 10% is like a 5%.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm.
when it floods on the Tyree, and if those schemes aren't working, Queenstown people, North Otago people can't get through that area. So I've got no problem at all with the concept of that being having regional impact. There's nowhere in yesterday's paper on, which was the local and interregional paper that we had yesterday, the local and interregional transport consultation topic. There was nowhere in that paper that actually it was based on an Oamaru on-demand service, the same as Timaru, which is based on, it is not based in connecting the areas, that is based on connectivity around the township. So again, that is why, yeah, I understand your concepts, but I'm backing Councillor Kelleher, and I'm somewhere as a discussion point, somewhere around the 5 to 10%. 20% is just unreasonably high.
Okay. I think everyone's spoken who wants to. Sorry,
I had
Councillor.
a question before, so I just want to add to
Oh,
the debate.
right. Put your hand up if you want to speak, that'd be great. Yep.
Yeah, I did have it up actually. Look, I think that once again, the funding at any rate is not funding the PT strategy. I think that the status quo is, I favour that more than any of those other options. I won't be supporting this.
Councillor Laws.
It's just a simple rating logic, really, and that is whoever gains from the service or derives the benefit from should pay for it. So therefore, in the areas in which we are seeking to levy this rate, we've got to try and make that as proportionate and as direct as possible, which is why I support Councillor Kelleher's views on a 5 to 10% district rate at maximum.
Call for a division.
Yep. We're gonna have a division, thanks.
Right?
Yep.
Did you consider dropping that figure to 10%?
Yes, as my division call. Are you calling for it?
Yep, we're gonna put this one because it's what we've got.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a division, yep.
So Callaghan,
Yeah.
No.
councillor Laws,
No,
councillor Malcolm,
No.
councillor McCall,
No,
councillor Methven,
No.
councillor Noon,
Aye.
councillor Scott,
Yes.
councillor Weir,
Yes.
councillor Wilson,
Yes.
councillor Robertson.
Yes.
So that is
That's fine.
6 in favour, 5 against.
Which means that the existing motion passes if I don't use my casting vote, which.
No, it's carried.
Carried. Sorry, I thought you said 6. Oh, but yeah, we've got one missing, haven't we? So that's all good. So it's carried.
Town
Thank
against
you.
country. There's no divisions. You can still come fishing.
Approves amending transport targeted rate to be charged on a uniform basis. Questions? No questions? Oh, sorry, councillor. Weir.
What's a man bag, Gary?
Oh, sorry.
Horror.
Okay, sure. Councillor Laws, have you got your hand up?
no,
Oh, okay, thank you. No questions? Any debate? Councillor Weir.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I mean, we know that, you know, uniform charges disadvantage the most vulnerable in our community to the benefit of those with the most capital value. And that to me goes against our one of our rating principles of you know, those who can pay more should pay more. That's one of our guiding principles that we've agreed to, and this completely goes against that, and will hurt, you know, those in our community who are have the least. And so when we talk about affordability and we talk about cost of living pressures that our rates are putting on, if we're serious about that, then we wouldn't be changing a new like adding a new uniform rate, and so I will be definitely voting against this and have to foreshadow an alternative motion on the very similar chance that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson, then Scott.
I think we need to have a reality check about how wealthy New Zealand is. It isn't. It's a really poor country. And this idea that some people are richer than others actually is a myth. They probably all live in Auckland. They don't live outside of the other areas that we're trying to rate. We're a really poor country. We're an amazingly rich landscape. We've got an amazing place to live. But this idea that we keep on thinking there's someone else that we can tax and rate for this benefit. What we are doing here is strategic thinking, providing more services to people, and how are we going to do that to provide those people with a less income, more choice, and a better service. And yet we still think we need to, sorry, I find it really hard that we're going to try and push that out to people who don't get a service and add to what a substantial amount of money because they may have more money. If you want to see the latest ANZ research, which shows farming right down in the stress levels of income on the ANZ research for sheep farmers, there isn't money there to be taxed. We can't keep on trying to pretend that you could just get someone else to pay this. We have to be realistic. Uniform rates is a way of doing that when you are providing a service to an area. And to do it any other way, having extended the area that you're servicing is actually a myth. We have to stop trying to get someone else to pay and be reality check on this. So I'm supporting a uniform basis, considering that we've extended the transport targeted rate, and it's only on that basis that I can support the targeted rate going a lot further out to reach areas that haven't been rated at all in the past.
Councillor Scott and some others.
Cool. I'd just like
Yeah.
I'd just like to remind Kate, about the bell curve that often refers to. Look, it's alive and well, and the rich are getting richer. So I don't know what this myth is that you're talking about. And if you don't believe me, go down to Kensington Oval from time to time. I will be supporting Elliot's view. Thank you very much.
Councillor Callaghan.
Capital value is a flawed means of these types of rates. In my mind, it's a fairness situation, and someone's capital value has nothing to do with what they can and can't afford. And it's from capital value here right up to capital value here. Where do you reach a threshold where it's affordable or not? And so every area is different. What everyone does is different. Uniform means that no matter what you do and where you live, you meet a fair cost that is attributed to everybody. So I'll be supporting the motion as it stands.
Councillor Malcolm.
This is a service for people. This is a service for people being pushed by government. And if you look at the new Sustainable Public Transport Framework, and that framework is being pushed extensively by the government. The government should be paying for this. It should be done on a people basis only. It should be a uniform tax, a uniform rate, because rate is a tax anyway. It's dead simple. It's uniform. Simple as that. It's for the people. It is a people benefit. It's not a regional benefit. It is a people benefit. Uniform.
Anyone else? Councillor None.
I think this is as a matter of fundamental principle, the majority of funding of the transport activity should come from as a targeted rate from the ones that are closest to those services. And and we've just had the discussion around the general rate contribution at 20%, the 20%, 80% split. So it just seems to me this is the fairest way to allocate the rates burden.
That's weird. Have you spoken? You've spoken. You were first up. Sorry, of course you were. Right. No one else wanting to speak? We'll put it then, all in favour, aye, against,
No.
okay, 3 against, I think,
I
wanting
would
it
like to
recorded.
record it on this
Yep,
one.
councillor Scott, councillor Weir,
Thank you.
councillor Forbes, recorded.
Yes, please.
You
Yep,
probably put Alan Somerville in there too.
yeah, but he's not here, but yes, we're not going to do that, thanks. So it is carried, thank you. 25, approves removing the current transport targeted rate differentials. Questions? Councillor Metham.
And what are they?
So these are the differentials around that we have currently because it's under the CV-based system. So this one sort of becomes a bit, it's a bit of a process just to say we're removing them. You could still have differentials on a uniform basis, but they're currently on location and land use, which is commercial property in the Queenstown area. It doesn't define any different area. And in Dunedin, it's commercial properties essentially in a defined CBD area and the area down in St. Clair around there. It's the differentials were set probably 20 years ago, well, certainly for Dunedin, when the network was very much based on trying to just transport people to those two areas. So based on going to a uniform, that's why the previous one was there. Then if you go to uniform, then the proposal would have been to just remove the differentials. Could still put a land use based differential on, you know, if you wanted, charge. So the uniform could be higher for, say, commercial property. But this was just proposing to remove it and make it simple and not have them.
Yep. We understand what it is. Any other questions, or would you like to start debate? Yep.
You know,
Go for
to
it.
me, this is another situation where simplicity is overriding fairness. There is good sense behind the fact that people that are closer to the bus system and the commercial would pay more. So I do not support removing the differentials.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Malcolm.
Can I have a question through you,
Oh,
Chair? Is that Councillor Scott taking the advice of Mr. Donnelly that you could still retain a differential but still have a uniform rate?
Well, we've already passed the uniform, and his advice was you could still have a uniform, a number of uniform rates,
uniform rate
depending
with
on your
differentials.
location and your commercial.
Debate. Thanks. Yep. Thanks. Nope. Okay, we're going to put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
Okay, would you like that recorded?
I like the
Councillor
division,
Scott?
actually.
Okay,
Yes, is
you're
right
welcome
here.
to a division. That's anyone can call one. Yep.
Yes, Councillor Councillor Callagher.
No.
Just gone. Councillor Malcolm.
I'll abstain on this one.
Councillor McCall.
Yes.
Councillor Metham.
Abstaining.
Councillor Noon.
Aye.
Councillor Scott.
No.
Councillor Weir.
I was also going to abstain.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Abstain.
Yes.
Councillor Robertson.
Yes.
So that's 5 yes, 2 no, 4 abstentions.
Okay, it's carried. Thank you, everyone. The final one is noting that there's still further financial, we know that. I don't need to read it out. Yep, thanks. So are there any questions then about the process from here? No? No. Okay. Got it?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
In favour, aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. That's the completion of this council meeting. Councillor McCall.
Can I just say a couple of words before we close?
If
I'd just
there
like to
wasn't
take this opportunity to thank the chair for the efforts over the past 12 months. I think Wahine Toa, a champion person. And I think it's really awesome that we've had Gretchen, you've been up the front leading us and you've taken us through some pretty heady debates and through some times over the past year. I think you've done an awesome job. You've pretty much held us together, and you've got you've got great attributes in the way that you can confide and support in the people when we need it. You pull us into line when we need it also. It's really important. Probably the key thing is that everybody gets the chance to have their opinion and to voice their views. As a council, under your leadership in the past 12 months, the council has grown in stature and ability, and we're all moving along a pathway together. It's like we're all coming together as more of a team so that we can be ORC Inc., which is awesome. We're making decisions, which I think is really important. We've made some pretty big decisions in the last few days. And so I think it's really good that, and so I'd just like to thank you under your leadership that you've held us together. We do not always agree, but we always agree not to agree. So I see some, and Gretchen has a wee bit of a thing in some of our pre-meetings where she hands out some chocolate fish. So
You're going to give her a bag of them.
I mean, fishing and there's
Mushrooms.
no fish
I
left
hope
in the,
this is a blow card.
there's no fish left in the sea. So all I can do is just get some sea remnants. So
Oh, brilliant, it
I've
is a
got
blow
some
card.
fruit salad plants from the sea and some dinosaurs. 'Cause
Wow.
there's a few dinosaurs here. And we'll,
A few dinosaurs on the table.
some sea frogs.
Crikey.
And the best of all, we got the wiggly squiggly iggly sea worms.
Oh, aquatic invertebrates.
And for some of the more mature people, we got the good old original sophistication lunch.
Okay, so I'd like to just.
So thank you very much for all you've done.
Oh,
and
thank
it's
you
awesome.
so much.
Thank you.
Nicole.
Like to jump in as well. Having been in your position in the role last term, it's a pretty lonely job at times, and I think you've done a fantastic job keeping us all in the tent. Not an easy task when you've got 11 other views around the table, and they can be from one spectrum, the end of the spectrum, to the other. You've built a strong, dependable, trustworthy relationship with Richard, which is absolutely critical, that you both are on the same page, whether you have differences of opinion outside this chamber, so be it. But what we see, it's a very strong relationship, and we really value that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. It's always Councillor Wilson.
I actually didn't want to close the meeting. I wanted to adjourn it. And I know that that's possibly not accepted by other people, but I wanted to get through the workshop today to see whether we should be doing any other motions afterwards. And so I hate to get in the way of what's a really nice thing to do otherwise. So I don't want to complicate things. I'm not quite sure that the CEO thinks it's necessary, but I'm considering where we're at the moment. I feel like after today we may want to be making some resolutions to council under urgency, and I'm not sure, and so I don't want to down the.
We can discuss what we were going to discuss in our workshop and take it from there. Yeah, so I don't know that we need to be having further council items today, but we have already got a workshop on our land and water plan, which is advertised, and that's the place to discuss, I think.
We can't make decisions.
Can't make decisions.
Can't make decisions, but I don't think we need to make decisions. Have a conversation.
I appreciate that, and I'm just saying that I appreciate I probably don't have the numbers around the table. I had just wanted to say that because my role is to represent the people and to get the best outcome for them, and that process I think should be transparently open and be a decision of council. So that's why I'm doing it. As much as I know that sometimes annoys people to do it that way, but I'm also, I don't know where other people are, and I have raised it. I can just say I've raised
Okay,
it.
shall we?
Yeah.
Councillor Noon.
Yeah, I assume this is in reference to Minister Bishop's letter. Sorry.
Yes, so I'm thinking at this point, it may well be useful to adjourn for a couple of minutes, but before that, before I just close off with the karakia, but I am wanting to just respond, if that's all right, to the really lovely words that we've just heard about actually our council. I do not want to take away from the fact that this is actually the important thing to think about at this moment is our council and where we've been and where we've come to over the last year, and it's a we. Thank you for the comments about me. I find that really hard. I've been in local government for a really long time and I absolutely love local government and what we do, and it's about community. It's about democracy. It's about the fact that each and every one of us is different and represents different people. And that's the beauty of local government. It's not a bad thing at all. It's not a bad thing that we debate things, that we sometimes have different views. I love that about what we do. It's the important part of who we are and the communities that we represent that are different. I want to thank everyone for coming together as a team, to Councillor McCall as deputy as well, and for your words. Thank you for your leadership and your support, and always being there as an ear to run things past. That rural urban thing's really helpful as well. Thank you for that. But thank you to absolutely everyone, and particularly to Richard actually, and to the staff, because preparing for land and water plan and for an LTP at the quality that we have been delivering on is absolutely unbelievable. It's taken a heap of work recently, extra hours. I heard yesterday a little bit of a complaint that we got through 4 times as much coffee in the through this building over the last couple of weeks as normal. There's a lot happening, and thank you so much for preparing us with really high quality reports that I think we've had fantastic debate over the last couple of days. Everyone's had their say. It's transparent. That's what we strive for. And now the important thing to focus on is that we're going to be well set up so that we can have those community conversations that are so important. It's not about us. We're a vehicle to our communities as local government, and we need to remember that. So I think we've really set ourselves up well for that in both the LTP and the land and water plan, and whatever road is ahead, that's the way we will address it, and we'll do it together. So thanks everyone for being part of that. Right, we're going to adjourn just really quickly rather than having a discussion, and then we'll just come back and hopefully close off with a karakia. So somebody care to move that we adjourn? Councillor Wilson, second, and Councillor Noon. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We'll just have 2 minutes or so. Next. All right, we are back online and we're now ready to just close off the meeting. I've already said some closing remarks, but we're just wanting to close off now with a karakia and then we can get into our council workshop. So, kia tau, te rangi Māori e, ki runga i ngā iwi o te ao. Amen. Merry Christmas, everyone.
How long are we off for now?
Minus 10 minutes.
6 minutes.
Where did this supposed to start?
10 minutes ago.
I couldn't leave you off that one, Bethan.
Should I send through what I was
We've got a date to go to. Yeah, that's right.
Anyone else want a hard copy of that legal advice?
Yeah, sorry.
We've got lots of lollies to eat. It's a busy time, sorry. Oh, you know, this is my Christmas wild and treat.
You know, they already had those emails out there, so they wouldn't be able to.
Come on, take.
No, I think. We can, okay.
Right.